Rin had never known silence like this before. The escape pod floated across the endless sea of stars, far from any living world. No voices, no sounds, not even the hum of working engines remained. Only the faint crackle of broken wires and the shallow breaths from Rin's lungs filled the small chamber. The pod was once built to carry survivors to safety, but now it was only a metal shell drifting wherever the void carried it. The controls were damaged, the power low, and the oxygen slowly slipping away. Rin looked through the small glass window at the stars outside. They burned bright, cold, and far away, each one a reminder of how small and lost a single life could be. Rin's skin itched with dry air, and the eyes felt heavy from exhaustion. How long had it been since the ship was destroyed? Rin did not know. Days blended into one another. Time meant little when there was nowhere to go and nothing to do but wait. Still, Rin refused to close the eyes and give up. Every moment awake was another chance that someone, somewhere, might notice the drifting pod. Maybe another ship would pass by. Maybe rescue was possible. That thought was fragile, yet it was the only thing keeping Rin alive. The pod shook once as a small piece of space rock struck the hull. Rin jumped at the sound, the sudden noise breaking the heavy silence. The hull held firm, but it was another warning that the pod would not last forever. Each second out here was a fight against the dark, and the dark was endless. Rin moved weak hands across the small control panel. Most lights were dead, but a single red glow showed the oxygen level. It was falling, slow but steady, like sand slipping through a narrow glass. Rin leaned back and closed tired eyes for a moment, but the face of the old crew filled the mind. The ship had been a place of life and laughter once. Now it was gone, swallowed by fire and debris, leaving only this broken pod. A sharp ache rose in Rin's chest. Not just from hunger or thirst, but from the weight of being the only one left. Alone. Truly alone. The stars were countless, but none of them spoke back. None of them cared if Rin's small pod vanished into the void. The body shook with cold. The heater had failed 2 days ago, leaving the pod like a frozen shell. Rin pulled the thin survival blanket tighter, but it barely helped. Hands were stiff, movements slow. Even simple actions took effort now. Still, the will inside refused to break. Rin whispered softly to the self, though the words carried no sound in the empty air. Not yet. I will not end here. Someone must be out there. The words gave a strange comfort. Even if no one heard, even if the stars stayed silent, speaking reminded Rin that life still burned within. The food supply was nearly gone. The last packet sat inside a small box at the corner of the pod. It was plain, dry, and tasteless, but it meant another day alive. Rin forced the weak arms to reach for it, chewing slowly even though the throat wanted to stop. Each bite was like eating dust, yet each bite was survival. After eating, Rin leaned toward the broken beacon. The device had been smashed when the pod was first launched, but after hours of trying, Rin had managed to send one short signal. It was weak, maybe too weak to ever reach anyone, but Rin had pressed the button with hope. Now the beacon sat silent, its small light dark again. Still, Rin's gaze returned to it often, as if willing it to glow once more. The stars outside did not change. They spun slowly as the pod turned, endless points of light across the dark canvas. Sometimes Rin thought one of them might move, that maybe it was a ship in the distance, but it was always just a star. The mind played tricks after so many days of silence. Sleep pressed hard against Rin, heavier with each passing hour. Rest would be easy, but rest might never end. Rin fought to keep the eyes open, pinching the own arm to stay awake. Each second awake was another chance, no matter how small, that rescue might come. The chest rose and fell slowly. The heart beat weak but steady. Fear lived inside, but so did a spark. Rin was lost, alone, and drifting across the cold ocean of space, but the spirit was not broken. Somewhere out there, maybe far away, maybe closer than imagined, a ship could hear, a ship could see, and a ship could save. Until then, Rin would endure. The void was wide, but hope still lived in a small, fragile pod moving among the stars. Rin's eyes opened to the faint glow of the red oxygen light. It was lower than before, smaller, weaker. A sharp fear crawled up inside. The pod had little time left, and once the air was gone, nothing would matter anymore. The alien's body felt heavy. Hunger, thirst, and cold worked together to pull strength away. Yet deep inside, a thought pressed forward. The beacon. It was broken, almost useless, but it was the only chance left. Rin pushed weak arms toward the small box of tools. Hands trembled as they searched through bent metal and scraps. The beacon had wires torn, circuits cracked, and its battery nearly drained. But hope was like a fire, even if it burned small. The alien placed the beacon on the floor and began to work. Fingers pressed against sharp edges, twisting wires together, forcing parts into place. Sparks jumped, burning the skin slightly, but Rin did not stop. Every spark was a sign the machine still lived, even if only a little. Hours passed in silence. The stars outside remained cold and endless, watching without care. Rin whispered to the self, telling the body to move, telling the hands not to stop. At last, a faint light blinked on the beacon. It was not steady, it was not strong, but it was alive. Rin stared at the small blinking light as if it were a flame in the dark. Heartbeat grew faster, even though breath was weak. Carefully, Rin pressed the transmit button. The beacon hissed, sending out a shaky pulse. The sound was broken, the signal faint, but it reached into space like a voice crying out. "Please," Rin whispered, even though the beacon could not carry words. "Please, let someone hear." The beacon blinked again, then again, sending tiny waves into the endless void. Each blink felt like a lifeline thrown into a black ocean. Rin sat close, watching as if the eyes alone could push the signal farther. Time dragged slowly. Minutes felt like hours. Hours felt like days. The beacon blinked on and off, weak but steady. Rin leaned against the wall, eyes half closed, but forced them open again. The body wanted rest, but the mind feared that rest would bring no waking. Memories returned in the silence. Memories of the old crew. Laughter in the mess hall, bright voices during travel, the comfort of not being alone. Faces appeared in Rin's thoughts, one after another, until the chest grew heavy. They were gone, all gone, lost to the fire of the destroyed ship. Rin was the last one. The beacon was not only for survival, it was for them too. If someone answered, their memory would not vanish into nothing. A sudden cough shook Rin's body. The air felt thinner, drier. The oxygen light blinked lower again. Time was running away too fast. The alien reached out, pressing the beacon button once more, as if holding it would keep it alive longer. The pod drifted, silent except for the faint hiss of the beacon. Outside, the stars remained unchanged, far and cold. But in Rin's heart, something felt different. A strange sense, like the signal was not alone anymore. Maybe it was only the mind playing tricks, but maybe, just maybe, Someone out there had heard. The alien tried to stay awake. The eyes grew heavier, but the will to see the beacon blink kept them open. Each blink was a heartbeat of hope. Each blink was proof that life still reached outward. Ren thought of home, the green fields and clear skies once seen as a child. The warmth of sunlight on skin, the sound of wind moving through tall trees. The memory was sharp and painful, yet it gave strength. If someone heard the beacon, there could be another sunrise, another chance to feel that warmth again. The beacon light flickered weakly now, the battery draining fast. Ren pressed the button again, whispering words the void would never carry. I am here. I am alive. Do not let me vanish. Tears formed but froze on the cold skin. Ren wiped them away slowly, refusing to let despair win. The alien leaned against the glass window, staring into the endless stars. Somewhere among them, life existed. Somewhere, ships traveled, explorers moved, voices laughed. The signal was flying toward them now, small but real. The body weakened, sliding down to the floor beside the beacon. Ren wrapped arms around the knees, curling tight as if to guard the last spark of life. The beacon continued to blink, faint but steady, like a heartbeat refusing to stop. In the silence of space, the last signal flew outward, carrying hope across the stars. Ren's eyes closed for a moment, heavy with exhaustion, but the mind held one final thought. If anyone heard, if anyone came, the story would not end in this lonely place. The pod drifted on, carrying both a fragile life and a fragile light, waiting for an answer. The beacon blinked weakly in the corner of the pod. Its faint glow was the only sign that hope still lived. Ren sat slumped against the wall, body shaking with cold, eyes half closed. Breathing was shallow now. Every breath felt like it scraped against dry lungs. The pod had grown quiet, too quiet, and it seemed the end was closer with every passing second. Then, for the first time in many days, something changed. A distant light appeared outside the pod window. At first, Ren thought it was only another star, another cruel trick of the eyes. But this light moved. It grew larger, brighter, cutting through the dark as if it carried purpose. Ren's heart began to beat faster, and the weak hands pressed against the glass as if to hold the light in place. The pod shook gently as the light came closer. It was no star. It was a ship. Its outline formed slowly, wide and solid, with strange shapes across its hull. It was nothing like the ships Ren had known. Its body was plain, its design sharp and strong. Painted across the side were words in a language unknown to Ren. Strange letters glowed faintly, standing out against the dark metal. Ren's breath caught in the throat. The mind remembered old stories told among the stars. Stories of a species young and bold, a species that had only recently entered the galactic stage. Many called them reckless. Others called them dangerous. But some whispered that they were different, that they carried fire in their hearts that refused to die. Humans. Could it be true? Ren wondered. Could this strange, plain ship belong to them? The pod gave a sudden beep as scanners locked onto it. Ren's broken systems flashed weak lights, showing a signal coming from the larger ship. They had seen the pod. They were coming closer. Fear and hope fought inside Ren's chest. If the stories were true, humans were unpredictable. Would they help or would they see a lost alien as nothing more than a risk? The alien's body tensed, every muscle weak but alert. The larger ship released a long arm of metal. It stretched out slowly, steady and careful, until it reached the pod. A clamp locked onto the side, pulling it toward the ship's hangar bay. Ren's body shook as the pod rattled and groaned from the force. At last, the darkness outside turned into the dull gray walls of the human vessel. The pod was pulled into safety. Inside the hangar, lights shone bright, far brighter than the endless stars. Ren squinted against them, covering the face with one hand. The pod landed with a heavy thud. For a long moment, silence filled the air. Then the pod's door creaked as outside hands worked on it. Metal groaned, bolts shifted, and the door slowly opened. Ren's heart raced. The alien pressed back against the far wall of the pod, unsure of what was about to enter. Figures stepped inside. They were tall, covered in plain suits with clear glass over their faces. Their skin was pale compared to Ren's own, their shapes strong, their eyes sharp with focus. They looked strange yet determined, moving with both caution and confidence. One of them stepped forward. A woman with calm eyes and steady hands. She carried no weapon, only a small light that she aimed softly toward Ren. Her face behind the glass shield looked kind, even though her features were unfamiliar. She extended her hand slowly, not to grab, not to harm, but to offer. Ren's body trembled. The alien had not felt another being's presence since the ship's destruction. Fear whispered to stay back, but the calm in the human's eyes said something else. It said safety. It said trust. Ren's voice cracked from dryness. No words came out, only a weak sound. The human woman tilted her head slightly, as if listening, then spoke. Her language was strange, sharp, but her tone was gentle. She touched her chest with her hand and spoke again, slower this time. Ren did not understand the meaning, but it was clear. She was giving her name. The alien stared, then lifted a weak hand and pointed to the own chest. Ren, came the soft whisper. The woman's eyes brightened, and she nodded slowly, repeating the sound with care. Ren. The other humans behind her exchanged looks. Their faces carried relief, perhaps even joy. Ren realized then that they were not enemies. They had come to save, not to destroy. Hands reached out and pulled Ren gently from the pod. The alien's legs could barely hold weight, so the humans supported the body carefully, carrying it across the hangar. Their touch was firm but not harsh. For the first time in what felt like forever, Ren was not alone. The pod remained behind, silent and broken, but Ren no longer needed it. A new light had come into the darkness. The humans had found the drifting survivor. As Ren's tired eyes closed again, the last thought before sleep was simple but powerful. The stories had been true. Humans were real. And they had saved a life from the endless void. The hangar of the human ship was filled with light and sound, a sharp contrast to the silence of the drifting pod. Ren's weak eyes blinked as they adjusted, staring at the new world around. Machines hummed. Boots struck the floor with clear rhythm. The humans moved with practiced ease, each step showing they were used to the dangers of space. Two of them carried Ren carefully down a metal ramp, their arms steady but gentle. The alien's legs trembled too much to walk, but the humans treated the survivor as fragile cargo, not as a threat. Ren's heart pounded fast, fear mixing with relief. At the end of the hangar stood the woman who had first reached out. She had removed her helmet now, revealing her face clearly. Her features were strong yet calm, her eyes steady and watchful. Ren had never seen a human before, but something in her expression eased the fear. She gave a small nod, as if to say, "You are safe here." Ren's breathing was shallow. Words formed in the throat but never left. The alien looked around at the large space, at the humans working nearby. Some were watching, curious but not hostile. Others focused on tools and machines, giving no sign of fear or anger. This confused Rin. Many species would see a strange survivor as dangerous, but the humans seemed different. The woman stepped closer. Her hands were empty, open, and steady. She knelt down to meet Rin's weak gaze. Then, in slow motion, she extended her hand forward. Her palm faced upward, fingers spread slightly. It was a gesture simple in action but heavy in meaning. It was not a command. It was not a demand. It was an offer. Rin stared at the hand. The mind raced with questions. Was this a test? Was this trust? Could it be real? The alien's hands shook from weakness, from doubt. Yet the calm in the woman's eyes remained. She did not rush. She did not force. She only waited. Slowly, painfully, Rin lifted one trembling arm. Fingers brushed against her palm, and the human closed her hand gently around Rin's. Warmth spread from her touch, warmth that had been absent for many long days in the cold pod. Rin's chest shook with emotion. For the first time since the disaster, there was no silence, no loneliness. Another being was here, real and alive, reaching across fear and difference. The human smiled faintly, then pointed at herself. Anna, she said clearly. Her voice carried strange tones, but her meaning was clear. This was her name. Rin's lips parted. The voice came soft and broken. Rin. Anna's eyes brightened. She repeated the sound carefully, as if holding something precious. Rin. The other humans exchanged nods. Some even smiled. The moment was small, but it was powerful. A bridge had formed between two lives that had never met before. Anna signaled to her team. They brought a small chair with wheels and placed Rin gently upon it. Then they guided the survivor through wide halls of the ship. The walls were simple metal, strong and practical, with lights glowing above. The air smelled clean, fresh compared to the stale breath of the pod. Each breath felt like life returning. Humans walked past, glancing at the alien with wide eyes. Some whispered to each other, but none showed hate. Their faces carried curiosity, maybe even respect. Rin's fear began to ease, replaced by something warmer. At last they reached a room filled with soft lights and machines. A bed stood ready, along with clear tubes of water and small packs of food. Humans called this place a med bay, a place for healing. They helped Rin onto the bed and covered the weak body with a warm blanket. The first sip of water burned Rin's throat, but then it soothed. The humans guided carefully, making sure not to overwhelm the fragile survivor. They offered food, simple and plain, but it was more than enough. Each bite felt like strength returning. Anna stayed close, watching with calm eyes. When Rin looked at her, she always gave a small nod, as if reminding that safety was real. She did not need to speak for her presence to give comfort. Hours passed slowly. Machines beeped softly, checking Rin's heartbeat and breath. Humans came and went, working with quiet care. Rin drifted in and out of sleep, yet each time the eyes opened, the humans were still there. They did not leave the alien alone. In the deep quiet of rest, Rin thought about the past days. The drifting pod, the broken beacon, the endless stars. All of it seemed far away now. This ship was strange, these humans were strangers, yet they had done what no one else had. They had reached into the dark and saved a life. When Rin awoke again, Anna was sitting nearby, writing on a small glowing device. She noticed the alien's eyes open and gave another gentle smile. She touched her chest once more and said, "Anna." Then she pointed softly at Rin. The alien whispered back, Rin. And once again, the bridge between them grew stronger. In that small room, in the middle of endless space, a new connection had begun. A simple hand had reached out, and in that touch, loneliness had ended. Rin lay on the bed in the med bay, wrapped in warmth, breathing air that no longer scratched the lungs. The weakness still clung to the body, but strength was slowly returning. The humans had given food, water, and rest. Yet the biggest gift they had given was something else: presence. Rin was no longer alone. Anna returned often, always calm, always steady. She carried no weapon, only a small tablet of glowing light where she sometimes wrote symbols. Each time she came, she tried to speak to Rin. Her words were strange, filled with sharp and smooth sounds that carried no meaning to alien ears. Still, her tone was gentle. She did not sound like a commander or a guard. She sounded like someone who wanted to be understood. One day, as Rin sipped water, Anna sat on the chair nearby and pointed at herself again. "Anna," she said. Her hand pressed against her chest firmly, then she repeated the word slower. "Anna." Rin tilted the head, blinking. The sound was already known. It was her name. Rin whispered the sound back, weak but clear. "Anna." Her face brightened with joy. She nodded fast, smiling wide. Then she pointed at Rin. Her eyes asked the question without words. "Rin," the alien whispered again. Anna repeated it carefully. "Rin." She spoke the name as if it was important, as if it carried meaning beyond sound. She smiled again, and Rin felt something inside that had been lost for many days: warmth, not of the body, but of the spirit. After this, Anna returned with small objects to teach. She brought a round fruit, red and shiny. She held it up, saying a word in her language. Then she pointed at Rin, encouraging the alien to repeat. Rin struggled at first. The human sounds were hard and strange, but Anna's patience never broke. She laughed softly when Rin made mistakes, not in mockery, but in kindness, as if each attempt was victory. In return, Rin pointed at the same fruit and spoke the alien word for it. Anna's brows lifted with interest, and she tried to copy the sound. It came out rough, but it was clear she wanted to learn too. That moment struck Rin deeply. The human was not only teaching, she was also willing to learn. Day by day, they exchanged more words. Anna brought simple objects: a cup, a cloth, a tool, and spoke her language. Rin repeated, sometimes failing, sometimes succeeding. Then Rin spoke the alien word, and Anna tried to echo it back. Slowly, a bridge of sounds and meanings grew between them. The other humans joined sometimes. They brought food, adjusted machines, and smiled when they saw progress. One tall man clapped his hands lightly when Rin managed to say a human word correctly. Another gave a small cheer when Anna repeated an alien word without error. Rin felt something strange. It was not just survival anymore, it was belonging. One night, when most of the crew had left the med bay, Anna stayed behind. She sat beside Rin, holding the glowing tablet. She showed a picture of a large round world, blue and green. She tapped the screen gently and said a word, Earth. Rin stared at the image. A planet, alive with water and land. The alien whispered the word back, slow and unsure. Earth. Anna smiled again. She then pointed to Rin with a questioning look, her eyes asking silently, where is your home? Rin's chest tightened. Memories rushed back: green fields, tall skies, voices of the crew now gone. With a trembling hand, Rin pointed to the stars outside the small window, then pressed the palm against the own chest. The alien spoke the name of the home world in a soft, broken voice. Anna repeated the sound, even though it was difficult for her. She placed her hand on Rin's arm gently, her expression showing understanding. Even without words, the meaning was clear. She knew Rin had lost much, and she respected that pain. From that moment, the air between them changed. It was no longer just teaching sounds. It was sharing stories, even if only through gestures and small words. Anna spoke of earth, of seas and mountains, of bright skies filled with clouds. Rin spoke of the alien home, of rivers that glowed at night, of forests that sang when the wind passed. Neither could understand everything, but they understood enough. For the first time since the disaster, Rin laughed. It was a weak sound, but it came from the heart. The humans around looked at each other with relief. Anna laughed too, her voice light and warm. The sound filled the med bay with life. The first words had been spoken. Not many, not enough to hold long talks, but enough to prove something greater. Two beings from different worlds could meet, could share, could understand. As Rin drifted into sleep that night, the alien's mind carried no fear of silence. The beacon had called, and the humans had answered. Now they were no longer strangers in the dark. They were friends learning to speak across the stars. Rin woke slowly, sunlight like lamps glowing softly above the medbay. The air smelled fresh, the warmth of the human ship flowing through the room. The alien stretched weak arms and looked around. Anna was already there, sitting near the bed with her glowing tablet. She smiled and held up a small device, showing images and symbols. It was time to share stories. Anna tapped the screen. Pictures appeared of Earth's vast oceans, tall mountains, wide forests, cities filled with lights. She pointed to each image, speaking the words slowly. Ocean. Mountain. Forest. City. Rin listened, repeating the sounds cautiously. They were strange, sharp, but full of life. Then Anna pointed at herself and said her name again. She pointed at the others in the room, showing who they were, and spoke each name clearly. Rin repeated them slowly, trying to memorize the sounds. Each attempt brought a smile from the humans, small encouragements to keep learning. When Rin finally spoke a name correctly, Anna clapped her hands softly. Others joined with quiet cheers, their voices gentle, careful not to overwhelm. Rin felt pride bloom inside. Even in the alien body, the chest felt lighter, as if strength had grown with each word. Afterward, Rin decided it was time to share their own story. The alien pointed to the small window, toward the stars outside. Hands moved in slow gestures, tracing the shapes of the pod, the path of drifting, and the dark void that had once surrounded so completely. Rin spoke softly, describing the escape, the silence, the fear. Words were hard, broken, but Anna and the others watched carefully, nodding, showing that they understood even when meaning was unclear. They brought small symbols for help. Anna pointed to a star, then to Rin, then made a gesture showing distance. Rin understood. They had been alone, floating far from home. The humans listened closely, not interrupting, only showing care in their eyes. Then Rin shared memories of home. The rivers that glowed at night, the forests that seemed to sing, the green hills stretching far beyond sight. Though the humans had never seen such things, they leaned forward, eyes wide, absorbing each word and gesture. One man sketched roughly on a tablet, trying to match the shapes Rin described. Another showed a small globe, as if imagining what kind of place could hold such beauty. Anna smiled softly and pointed to Earth on the tablet. She described the seas, forests, and mountains with patience, showing that though worlds were different, life and beauty could be understood across the stars. Rin listened carefully, repeating the words in the alien voice. The names were strange, but the meaning was clear. Both sides were learning, sharing, understanding. Hours passed. The alien's body grew stronger with food, water, and rest, but the heart grew stronger with connection. For the first time, the loneliness of the void felt far away. The humans were no longer strangers. They were listeners, learners, teachers, and friends. At one point, Anna held out her hand again. Rin touched it gently, feeling warmth and reassurance. Then Anna pointed to herself and tapped the chest. She made a small gesture of drawing the hand in a circle over her heart. She pointed to Rin and made the same gesture. The meaning was clear: you are safe. You are part of us. Rin's eyes grew wet with emotion. It was strange and wonderful to feel this. The days of drifting alone, of cold silence, seemed almost unreal. Now, stories filled the room. Stories of life, survival, and hope. The human ship was no longer just a place of metal and machines. It had become a place of learning, understanding, and friendship. As night approached in the artificial cycle of the ship, the medbay lights dimmed softly. Rin lay back on the bed, feeling a strange peace. The first words had been shared, and now entire stories could travel between worlds. The alien could teach the humans about the lost home, and the humans could show the wonders of their own world. Before sleep, Anna showed one last image: a large, shining star. She pointed at it and spoke clearly: hope. She tapped her chest, then Rin's. The meaning was simple but powerful. Across all the fear and loneliness, life had found connection. Across all the distance between worlds, hope could survive. Rin whispered the word, unsure of pronunciation, yet filled with feeling. Hope. Anna smiled wide, a hand gently resting on Rin's arm. The others nodded quietly around the room. That one small word carried more than sound. It carried understanding, care, and the promise that life, even when lost in the void, could be found again. For the first time since drifting alone, Rin slept without fear. The beacon had called, the humans had answered, and now the stories shared would continue. They would grow, travel, and carry hope across the stars. The alien dreamed of home, of oceans and forests, of green hills, and of a strange new world filled with humans who had reached out a hand and saved a life. The connection was strong, fragile yet real, and it filled the heart with courage and joy. In the silence of space, Rin was no longer alone. Stories had become bridges, and bridges had become life. Rin awoke to the gentle hum of the human ship. The warmth of the medbay had faded into the soft rhythm of the living quarters, where sunlight like lamps illuminated the walls. The alien stretched, feeling strength returning to the limbs. For the first time since drifting alone in space, Rin felt ready to move freely, to breathe without fear. Anna entered quietly, carrying the glowing tablet. She smiled warmly and gestured toward the corridor. Rin understood. It was time to leave the medbay, to explore the ship beyond safety. With careful steps, guided by Anna, Rin moved into the wider world of the vessel. The corridors were long, bright, and filled with activity. Humans moved with purpose, working at machines, checking readings, or speaking softly to one another. Every glance at Rin carried curiosity but never fear. The alien realized the humans were not only explorers, they were caretakers, learners, and protectors. Anna paused at the observation deck. Through the large glass, Stars stretched endlessly, the dark void of space glittering with distant suns. Rin pressed hands against the glass, memories of the lost home world rising again. The rivers, the forests, the green hills all seemed far away, yet alive in the heart. Anna pointed at the stars, speaking a word slowly, future. She tapped her chest and then Rin's, indicating that the future could be shared. Rin nodded, understanding without fully knowing the words. The meaning was clear, the past was gone, the present was safe, and the future could be bright. A human crew member approached, holding a small device. On it were images of planets, moons, and distant worlds. The human pointed to one, then to Rin, indicating a choice. The alien understood at once there was an offer. Rin could return home to the lost world, or join the humans on their journey through the stars. Rin's heart raced. The mind remembered the solitude of the pod, the endless drift across space, the desperation and fear. But it also remembered the touch of Anna's hand, the warmth of food and water, the laughter shared, and the stories exchanged. Life was safe now, but which path held true purpose? The alien took a deep breath, eyes sweeping the ship. Humans worked together, creating, exploring, learning. They were strong, curious, and kind. They had saved a life when no one else could, reaching across the void with nothing but hope and courage. Rin realized something inside, this was a chance to be more than just a survivor. This was a chance to be part of something greater. Finally, Rin stepped forward, choosing. The voice came soft but steady. I will go with you. Anna's eyes lit with joy. She extended her hand once more. Rin grasped it firmly, and in that simple gesture, a bond was confirmed. The alien was no longer alone, not even in the vast darkness of space. Together, they would travel, learn, and face whatever the stars could bring. The crew gathered briefly, welcoming Rin into their midst. Hands were shaken, smiles exchanged, and gestures of friendship filled the room. Rin felt a new sense of belonging, not tied to a home world lost, but to a family found. Days passed as the ship moved through space. Rin learned the routines of life aboard the vessel. Humans taught how to operate basic machines, read star maps, and communicate across long distances. In return, Rin shared knowledge of alien navigation, survival techniques, and the wonders of the lost home world. Each day strengthened the bond between species, proving that understanding and cooperation could cross the vast distances of culture and biology. During quiet moments, Rin often returned to the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly, but now they felt full of promise rather than despair. Memories of the drifting pod were no longer frightening, they were reminders of resilience, of survival, and of hope. The beacon that once blinked alone now shone in memory, replaced by the warmth of living friends and allies. Anna often joined, sitting quietly beside Rin. They spoke in simple words, gestures, and shared glances. No translator was needed for understanding. Connection was more than language. It was trust, care, and shared experience. In the deep silence of the void, the alien understood that humanity was remarkable not for strength alone, but for the courage to reach across space and offer life, hope, and friendship. At last, the alien realized a truth that had not been clear in the drifting pod. Survival was not only about holding onto life, it was about what life could become when shared. Alone, Rin had endured. With humans, life could flourish. Dreams of adventure, learning, and discovery replaced fear. The future stretched like the stars themselves, infinite, full of possibility, and bright with hope. Rin turned from the observation window, looking toward the corridors and the waiting crew. The choice was made. The journey was beginning. Together, they would explore new worlds, face challenges, and write stories that no single being could tell alone. The alien's heart felt full. In the endless darkness of space, one small life had been rescued. And in rescue, it had found a family, a purpose, and a future. The ship glided forward, cutting through the black void with steady determination. Ren walked among humans, learning, teaching, and growing. The stars were not empty anymore. They were full of life, friendship, and the promise that together, anything was possible. And so, the last of the drifting pod survivors smiled for the first time in weeks, knowing that in the vast ocean of space, hope had not only survived, it had found a new path, a new home, and a new family among the stars.